Jane, how you doing?
I'm well.
Glad to hear that.
Let's see if my client just...
Day, and I just want to be in my talk to somebody for a while. Or even like Christ-like said. Are you in Brattleboro? Yes, we are. We have a office space in the Latches
Google it.
Spring Into Action is a great place where you can learn about how to be active in our community for social justice, racial justice, and environmental justice. So thank you for showing up, and we'll see you later.
How's everybody doing? Good. That's good. This is a really awesome crowd of people. We're trying to get everybody to come in. So if you see anybody, just wave them in. There's still some seats in the front. All right, let's do that again. How's everybody doing? All right, one more time. How's everybody doing? Awesome. My name is Esler, and I'm here with Curtis and Emily. We're the part of the We Can group. And I want to tell you a little bit story about what We Can is. After Donald Trump got elected, a lot of organizers, we were like, we don't know what to do. People are telling us, hey, is there something happening? What's going on? And it was kind of a intense time because we didn't know how to react. This is something that we're not prepared for. So, has anybody heard about the Roots? The Roots Social Justice Center, so I'm a collective as well there. And so we all got together and we were talking like, what are we gonna do? What are the things that we need to do? And out of those things was, we need a centralized place where organizers and people can go in and see what's going on in our community. How can we get involved with those people that are doing the same work that maybe perhaps you wanna do? Instead of starting your own thing, let's start something collectively. And with, you want to talk a little bit about your experience on that?
Right, which is now off. Go ahead. Thank you. So many different people with so many different tastes and so many different causes have all been doing work for a really long time in this community. And we were asking everyone to come together to collaborate on a calendar, on a regular update, on regular events, so that when new people wanted to get engaged, they had a place to go, so we could have no wrong door for organizing in our community. And so many incredible people have helped make this happen. The library is working really hard to get the calendar put up on their website. That's one of our next steps. And we have a website that, and an email update that goes out regularly with Joanna Wilson-Phillips, who's the amazing hands and woman behind the action there. Thank you so much, Joanna. She's at the front desk if you want to thank her. And then to put this event, our launch event, together, we had an amazing committee. Esler, Curtis, and myself, Ericka Korb, Ann Galoob, Mike Maricki, Ann Braden, Julie Cunningham. And Robin MacArthur, whose name I missed, who's amazing. I want to thank Hilltop Montessori for these amazing stage so that we can all feel powerful and communicate well with all of you up here, and you can see us and hear us. I want to thank Keegan Ruffalo for the amazing support with that and the labor. Jay Cook and the Vermont Shakedown. Let's all thank Winston Prouty for this absolutely extraordinary community resource of the state. The incredible view that we have, will we get to think about the future together? The incredible banner that we have hanging here. Dee Dee Cummings for the incredible poster design. I hope a bunch of you saw that in the community. Becca Balint for the poster art. Our incredible child support team to make this an event that can welcome families and children. Deb Whipkiss, Betsy Braden, and Casey Waite. Sandglass Theater, Robin Morgan's Music and Movement, and the incredible face painting crew to make this a really fun event for the kids. All of our amazing presenters and folks who are sitting behind the tables today to tell you about the great work that they've been doing and that we're going to do together.
Yeah, so we got a lot of, to run this website, we needed some resources, and we're like, well, I'm gonna have $20, so we all came up with the money and we created the website. But we also had help from some sponsors and some really, people that just came out and just like, this is what, we believe in this, and so I want to thank the Vermont Partnership, the Vermont Films Production, One Report, Auger Down Books, Ames Hills Video, Tom Frank, Mike Ricky, Brattleboro Memorial Hospital, and this Mattis Home Builders. Yeah, big round of applause for listeners. And so this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of this. There's gonna be questions asked, like what is that web that we're gonna start creating? Right now, there's a lot of like defunding the government and all that kind of thinking. So there's gonna be a lot of people in need. So the answers do not lie with any of those tables that are there. There's not one answer in any of those tables. Collectively, there's one answer. And we all have to come together and we have to work together and go and have conversations in our communities with our neighbors. And this is what this event is about. It's about creating that first line of communication. And this is up to all of us right here. Like, what are we gonna do? There's not one, again, this is a collectively organized event. And that's what we're seeking. We need a collective of people. Your neighbors, you, if you want to, like you can, we can do something together, so we can. And I'm so happy. And keep those questions going on. Like how are we gonna build this? How are we gonna go home and think about it and write stuff down and get with your neighbors? And let's come up with some answers, creative answers.
And because we all have bodies that we're going to do our organizing with, I want to thank Anon's Food for feeding us. Rara, who brought the coffee, which will get us through. Tito's Taqueria at the entranceway. And let you know that there are bathrooms lining the hall. There are fire exits that are very well labeled all over the place. Please don't block them. And thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Curtis is going to tell us a little bit about what to expect from your day.
Thank you. Someone of a certain age said to me, this is a great event to pass the torch. And I said, I'm not ready to pass the torch. But this is really about igniting more torches to get out there and do the work. So this is where the rubber meets the road today. For those of a certain age. wander, chat with people. We've got tables up and down the hallway. Find out what is happening. And a lot is happening. Be curious and energized. Take breaks when you need them. Come and listen to the panels. We have 6 panels that will start in the not too distant future. Make a pledge before you leave, whatever that pledge might be in terms of commitment of your time, your talent, your treasure on behalf of social, racial, environmental justice. And then sign up for a weekly newsletter. Like I said, it's not a, this is really an opportunity to not recreate the wheel, but to grow the wheel that we currently have. So, that being said, I'm going to turn this back over
to Ericka and Robin.
to Ericka and Robin.
Thank you all for being here. I am just going to say some very quick words. I am an example. I'm what a longtime activist like Curtis calls a recently activated person who realized post-election that I needed to do more than just vote and donate money now and then and have opinions on social media. I needed to find out what was happening in my local community. But I didn't know how to do that, so Ericka and I kind of manically went around attending about 5 different meetings in Brattleboro a week, and we got very dizzy, and we got very overwhelmed, and we got burnt out. And we were completely ineffective, or at least I was, because I was just trying to figure out what everybody was doing, and I wasn't digging in anywhere. So I am here to just say, effective activism involves choosing one, tops 2 issues that feel most urgent and that are aligned most with your passions and your skills and your capacity, and dig in deep with those, and then you can look around this room and rest assured that the other stuff that you care about is being worked on by other people. So find your place, but you don't need to do everything, and burnout is real. So self-care, dig in deep, choose your 1 or 2. Thanks. And here's Ericka.
Hello, thank you all for being here. I'm just here to let you know a little bit about what's happening for our children's programming today and the raffle that's going on. And so starting at 1 o'clock, there'll be childcare provided in one of the preschool classrooms right off the front entry, and it's free. You're welcome to go sign in your children, and they can stay in there and play for the day till 4 o'clock. And starting shortly at 1 o'clock, Sandglass Theater is going to be doing a puppet show in another preschool classroom off of the main entranceway. And it is free, but they will be passing a hat for donations. They'd like to offer tickets to their upcoming Sunshine series for free to families that can't afford it. So if you'd like to support that initiative, please make a donation to Sandglass when they start their show in a few minutes. And then at 3 o'clock, Robin Morgan will be doing a movement and music class for kids. Parents need to stay with their children during the puppet show and the class, but they are there for you for free. Robin's donated her time. And then the raffle, when you go up to the front, we can welcome desk. You'll see these colorful forms, and it's a raffle. And what we'd like you to do is, throughout the day, think about what commitment you're making towards your future here in activism, and write down one thing that you're pledging to do going forward, and one way that you are planning to take care of yourself. So write those 2 things down, and you can win a free massage at the Brattleboro Holistic Health Center, or an acupuncture session with Emily, or a Frida Kahlo mug by the famed Roberto Lugo, or a beautiful handmade quilt by our own Anne Golub. So please take your time to fill these out, and we'll announce the winners at the end, but you do not need to be present to win. So have fun. Thanks for being here, and I'm passing this off back to Emily.
Hi, everyone. I'm interested in having a conversation here today and really everywhere I go about ends and means. About taking the time with who we talk to, and most especially who we listen to think about the world we want to live in. To really spend time visioning that, to imagine it and to discuss it. Because I think many, many of us, all over the country, all over the world, can agree on that end, can agree on that world. Where we get lost and where we start arguing is in the means. The how are we going to get there? And how the way that we want to get there is different from the way that someone else wants to get there. But if we take the time to talk to our neighbors and to listen to both our legislators and our neighbors and the person at the grocery store about what that world looks like, that we can start together in solidarity. When we get to the means next, I want you to ask yourself, does that tactic or that strategy, does it line up with the vision of the world I want to live in? Can I talk to my neighbor and accept that their strategy might be different from mine? That their aesthetic of organizing, that their aesthetic of communication, that the type of poster and clothing and rally and email and postcard and whatever it is might not be what I do. It very rarely is. But it might move us towards that same end that I agree on. And accept that together we can. Together, we can agree to accept our differences in strategy so that when we're having those difficult conversations, we focus on the world we want to live in and not what we're doing tomorrow, not disagree on just that. Look way into the future. And when I'm designing strategies, I like to look to the past too. What's worked in the past? What happened at this other time in history? Ask my elders and my neighbors, learn my community's history. The reason that I love Vermont, the reason that I live here still, despite many struggles, is because it feels knowable to me. And I bet it feels knowable to many of you. I can get to know my legislators. I can get to know all the organizations in my community, and I can learn the history of many of the strategies I'm a part of. So with all of that possibility of knowing, I can make informed decisions, and you can too, about if I'm going to start a new movement, or if I'm going to join an existing one, or if that law that I'm fighting so hard against, is that something that someone else is working on? Is that something that someone else is already fixing? Because it's knowable, I can take the time, and I do take the time, to learn the history and learn all of my friends and neighbors that are already working on that, so that we're not working on cross purposes with all of those means we talked about. We're working in solidarity towards that same end. So, I serve in a few volunteer capacities with a lovely man named Wesley Pittman. And I think Wesley's, well, he's much older than I am. And he has this incredible lilting Southern accent. And he comes out with these amazing truths just that blow me back, because I'm kind of a prejudiced Northerner, and it shocks me that a Southerner would come out with that truth. So it's even better when I hear it, because I get surprised, because my brain doesn't match up with what I'm hearing. And the last thing he said to me that's really sticking with me, and that I hope can stick with you, is how do we know when we have a shared vision? What does that feel like? What does it look like? And how can we work towards it? Thank you. Speaking of different strategies, I am going to introduce the lovely Anne Braden.
Hi. This time in our history is unprecedented for many of us. And the rise in activism that we've seen since the election has the power to be a force that is truly transformative in our society. But only if we can find a way to keep it up. Our challenge as individuals and as a community is to find the way that we can make sure we are sustained and we stay sustained as activists. A key part of that is matching yourself up with what your passion is. And so I'm so glad that you're all here today. And another part is making sure that what you're doing is effective. And so it's great to have Emily's expertise and framework guiding us for that. But even if you are super passionate about what you're working on, and even if you're being as effective as possible, change still takes a really long time. So in order to make sure that we are able to keep going, we have to make sure that our activism is integrated with the things that keep us going. And what that looks like will be different from person to person. But I think there's certain things that are true for many of us. Often, our desire for action comes from a place of anger. For me, that was very much true. Soon after the Sandy Hook Elementary shooting, I was furious that nothing was being done to curb gun violence, and that anger ended up leading to the creation of Gun Sense Vermont. And similarly, and it was a similar anger after the election when I saw people acting out, feeling emboldened to act with their hate and bully those who are vulnerable, that led to the local love brigade being created. And so both of those things, they came from a place of anger, but anger by itself is not sustainable. And so our job is to find a way. I mean, if you think about since the election, I feel like we've all now had experiencing long-term anger and how it makes you want to go numb. Like you feel yourself shutting down, wanting to close out what's going on, and we can't go numb. We cannot afford to. We have to find a way to stay engaged. And so our job is to transform that anger into a force that can sustain us. And for me, and I suspect for many of you, the best way to do that is channel that force of love. Love can be just as fierce as anger. Just try to get in between a mama bear and her cubs. But, different from anger, love has this amazing and ongoing positive feedback loop. It grounds us. It reminds us why we are doing what we are doing. And for the most part, a statement that comes from a place of love is far more likely to change the mind of someone who needs to see the world in a slightly different way. So it is our love that brings us all here today. And if we can find a way to connect with others who are also channeling that love, our activism will be something that fuels us rather than the other way around. Let's just take a step back and think about how invigorating it is to be in a packed room of people, all who care about making a difference. There are so many ways to make sure that love and connection to others are an integral part of our activism. Maybe we set aside a time once a month when you get together with friends, you talk about the work you're doing, and you drink wine. For example, that can work. Maybe you join one of the community groups that has gotten started since the election that their whole focus is to support activism and to keep it sustained. There are huddle groups, there are action pods, there's the Women Marching Forward group that meets monthly and encourages women leadership skills. There is Song in Solidarity, which meets weekly and come together to sing songs of resistance. Social media can be great, but getting together with actual people is really powerful. Sometimes you're super lucky, and what your passion brings you to is a meeting that has all your people, and you're like, I found it. But most of the time, you have to be very intentional about it. And you have to think about it. It's kind of like a sandwich. The turkey is your passion. It's the most important part of the sandwich. The bread is your daily life that holds the turkey in place. And so you love the turkey. You think, this is the environmentally friendly choice. This is healthier than ham. I feel really good about my decision to eat turkey. But then at some point, maybe in a week, or maybe in a month, or maybe 6 months, you look down and you realize you cannot take another single bite of plain old bread and turkey. Because what that sandwich needs is a whole lot of mayonnaise, and olives, and pickles, and Swiss cheese, and juicy summer tomatoes, and bacon. Because that is a sandwich that is made with love. And it's a sandwich you will want to keep eating again, and again, and again. That's my analogy. This community has the power to be a force for change that is even stronger than the sum of our amazing parts. Let us come together today with open hearts. Let us look for connection. Let us look for opportunities to collaborate. And may we all come away not only with a plan for how we can personally best make change, but for a plan how we can keep ourselves sustained going forward, and for how we can collectively keep going and going and going until society is truly transformed. And now I have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker, someone who is a bright, shining light for many of us, someone who is effective and who approaches her work with her heart fully engaged. Senate Majority Leader Becca Balint.
Good afternoon. It's so wonderful for me to be able to have this perspective up here. So I want you to all look around for a few moments and look at the amazing group of people in this room. It's incredible. It's really incredible. And I also want to take a moment before I get started to acknowledge that there are a lot of legislators in the room today. And I'm wondering, if you're in the room, if you could stand up, I would just like people to see the other legislators in the room. So, Valerie Stewart, Emily Long, Jeanette White, I know Mike is here, Mike Willis is here too, Mike Willis. And I know Tristan Toledo very much wanted to be here today, but he had another previous engagement. He has a job. Is that what you said, Valerie? But he is always with us here in spirit. So thank you for coming out today. It's so inspiring. And I want to say welcome. Welcome if you are a lifelong activist, and welcome if this is your first time being fired up. But most especially, if you're an introvert and you really don't want to be here at all, I want to say welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I am not an introvert, but I'm married to one, so I understand what it's like. So I'm thrilled that you're here. We have such important work to do together. Last election day, my name was on the ballot. And after campaigning all day, I got in the car with my dear friend, Braden, and we headed up to the Burlington Hilton. And we wanted to be together with hundreds of other people watching history being made, watching us elect only our second woman governor, watching us elect our first female president. And we were giddy, and we were hopeful, and we fully expected that history would be made. And we told ourselves America wouldn't possibly elect a racist, a sexist, a misogynist, a con man, someone who lies compulsively and cavorts with white supremacists and anti-Semites. In short, a man seemingly devoid of a moral compass. Of course, we were horribly wrong. And racism played a part. And white privilege played a big part. And sexism, of course, played a part. And the billionaire class played their part. But driving all of this was this palpable, incredible fear. And number 45 sure knew how to whip up the fear. And he brought so many people in with his hateful rhetoric. So here we are. And we're still crawling out from under our despair. And we are channeling our anger. And we are gearing up for the long haul. And we're calling out the haters and the liars. And we're resisting what Robert Reich called this week the orgy of cruelty. But all the while, we're trying not to become like them, okay? We're trying not to lose our humanity, not to lose our courage, not to lose our compassion and our love. And I've thought a lot about this last one, our love, because I've been struggling with this. Embracing love when what I want to do is scream with rage. And like so many of you, I am impatient for change. I thought, perhaps foolishly, but I thought that we were further along in our evolution as Americans and as humans. And it was utterly crushing to realize that we had so far to go in our national journey towards true justice. When I was about to graduate from high school, Ronald Reagan was president. And I was a young gay woman, not yet out to my friends or family, and I'd been holding that secret for 8 long years. Now, I was voted most humorous and all-American by my high school class, which I find very funny. And shortly thereafter, I shaved my hair into a mohawk, and I moved to New York City, and I wore lots of black and lots of safety pins, and I was all about punk rock and anarchy. It's true. It's absolutely true. But like most folks, I was a bundle of contradictions. I would listen to the Plasmatics on my Walkman. And sometimes it wasn't the Plasmatics, it was Cat Stevens, but always in a mohawk in a long, dark coat. And a friend told me later that on that day, when I showed up at school for orientation, her mother had looked over at me and had whispered to her, "Those are the girls I've been warning you about." I tell you this because you probably can't imagine, as I stand here, that I once wore a haircut like that I wore a mohawk proudly, or that I did direct actions in Times Square against porn shops and peep shows with a group that was radical, but unfortunately humorless. We were called Feminists Fighting Pornography, FIP! Or that I started workshops on bias and privilege in the mid-'80s at an organization I worked at because the collective silence on these issues was deafening. You probably couldn't conceive that my poor older sister cringed regularly because of my butch haircut and grungy clothes. Because I stand before you in this very conventional dress and practical haircut. You probably can imagine that at 18, I seriously thought about taking my own life. I felt so alone as a gay woman. I couldn't imagine ever running for office. And I thought if I ever did, I would have to be so firmly in the closet and deny my identity. But these experiences shaped me, and I carry them into the State House with me every single day. And I carry them with me here today. Now, as two of my heroes who already spoke earlier today, Emily and Anne, who I love dearly and who inspire me, as they also alluded to, we are here to build coalitions. And not everyone in this room is going to have the same shared vocabulary And we're not going to have the same identities or the same lived experience. We must give each other room and permission to learn from each other and grow together. I don't want perfection in my revolution. I don't. I'm not perfect. I don't want people to expect me to be perfect, and I'm not going to expect you to be perfect. What I want is curiosity. I want generosity of spirit. I want a willingness for all of us to admit our mistakes. And I want us to be engaged in becoming better people individually so that we will be fully prepared to make the world a much more just place for all of us. But political engagement is a risky business. It takes a willingness to be vulnerable. It takes acceptance that you're gonna screw up. You're gonna get things wrong, even as you are fighting so hard to get them right. You will be offended sometimes, and others will offend you inadvertently. And don't let that stop you from jumping in. Don't let that stop you from getting involved. We have to come up against conflicts together. We have to engage honestly if we expect other people to engage honestly with us. And we do not have the luxury of a trial run. We don't. We don't have time to practice. We've got to get things right, but we don't need to get them exactly right. I sincerely believe that our democracy is at stake. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I only have 1 minute left. About 10 years ago, my wife and I moved to Wyoming. She took a job with a federal judge. She's from Wyoming. And we moved to one of the reddest cities and one of the reddest states. And all the gay people that we met there were so far in the closet that they kept separate bedrooms so that their parents wouldn't know, so that they wouldn't be disowned. It was absolutely soul-crushing to watch. And one day at work, a friend of mine who was straight came up to me and said, "Will you come skiing with us this weekend? A group of our friends are going to go skiing. Will you come?" I said, "I'd love to come, but I want to bring my wife, and I want to know if that's going to be a problem, because I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, but I'm going to be true to myself." And she paused, and she burst into tears, and threw her arms around me, and said, "Thank you. Thank you for trusting me as an ally. Thank you for believing that I actually would stand with you." She said, "I know that there are other gay people in this building and they don't let me in, and I want to be there for them." So that's my challenge to all of you today. Let your allies in. They're all here with you. We have a lot of work to do. Onward with courage. Thank you.
So we're just going to take 1 minute to set up for the first panel, which will be a panel on racial justice. Mike Ericka will be facilitating. So please bear with us for just a moment while we set it up.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to start with our first panel of the day, and I want to tell you a little bit about the formats. There's going to be 6 panels today. We have a lot of people who have a lot of things to say, and we want to make sure everybody gets a chance, so it's going to feel crunched. So I'll put that up there for right now. I do want to make a few quick announcements, though. The first is there were a lot of thank yous that were said, but I'm not sure we thanked Maria Dominguez here from BCTV. It makes so much happen for people who can't get out. And BCTV brings rooms like this into their rooms. So thank you, Maria. I have also an announcement on behalf of Senator White. She brought her appointment book here, her notebook here, And somewhere along the line, it seems to have grown some feet and walked away. If anybody finds it, it's a little book, I think with a rubber band and a clip in it.
It's a black moleskin and there's a big gold paperclip on the front.
Okay, if you find it, look for Senator White. So the format for this is going to be, each person up here is going to have a minute to introduce themselves and the group that they're here for. And then we've got a question that everyone will have a chance to. You want to start?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, I like more excitement than that. Good afternoon, everyone. Great. My name is Sheila Linton. I'm a native Brattleboroan. I'm here really representing, I think, in a way, maybe I'm an advocate for social justice, part of the Root Social Justice Center, Black Lives Matter, but many different affiliations when it comes to racial justice, which other people will be touching on. But I think that one of the reasons why I think I was asked to be up here is because I'm born and raised here in Brattleboro. I identify as a person of color, and I've personally been through a lot of racism myself, both growing up here and most recently in a recent racially motivated hate crime that happened to me here in Brattleboro. I've also been engaged in many different roles in the community, from being an elected official to sitting on numerous committees to being the founder of different initiatives and organizations. And so I'll leave it at that, but I think that I'm very happy and pleased to be here, and very thankful and grateful that all of you out there are interested in hearing what we have to say.
Hi everyone, my name is Lana, and I'm here today representing Black Lives Matter Vermont. Thank you. We exist. There are black people in Vermont, and we do need your support. All of the issues that we talk about disproportionately affect communities of color. And so it is very important to stand up for people of color and to support them, and that means, of course, with your dollars. So what we're asking you for today is to sign up, become a member of Black Lives Matter Vermont. Pay every year, and show black people in our communities that you are here for them. Us, me.
So it really is true. You are an exceptionally beautiful audience, and it's wonderful to look out on you. My name is Donna Macomber, and I'm here today representing the Community Equity Collaborative, which formed in 2008 after some blatantly racist incidents in Brattleboro stemmed at the high school. And we have been meeting every other month since 2008. Our mission is to really courageously look at and identify and work on the intersectionality of all forms of oppression. And that is no small piece of work. We are housed in the city hall because that's where we feel like we belong. And there are a number of us from different perspectives: the Brattleboro Police Department, the Superintendent of Schools, Curtis, Diana Wally, Mary Gannon, who many of you know, longtime social justice activist, Julie Cunningham, and we come together and really look at what we can do as a body to end oppression of all kinds and to make Brattleboro and this county an epicenter of welcome for everyone. So please feel free to talk to me or to Curtis. Or to Julie if you have more questions, but we are really porous and wanting to hear from our community. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Curtis Reed. I'm Executive Director of Vermont Partnership for Fairness and Diversity. We are in year 13 of a 40-year initiative called Vermont Vision for a Multicultural Future. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we are also the architects of the Vermont African American Heritage Trail, and our work extends into the schools with enrichment programs for a multicultural future. And our most exciting one of our most exciting projects is really around, it's called IamAVermonter.org, and it is a website for persons of color that are considering relocating to the state of Vermont. We believe that Vermont's future is tied to its ability to attract and retain people of color to come here as a destination. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rose, and I am one of the members of the organizing committee for the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Thank you. The NAACP is the largest and oldest civil rights organization throughout the United States. And I was very surprised to hear that there was, it's finally making its way to Vermont, slowly but surely, creeping up. And Rutland County just recently opened their chapter. And with a couple of members and the Brattleboro and Windham County community, we have been really trying very hard to open a chapter here in Windham County. And I am sitting here this morning in this panel just to bring noise about this organization happening right there in your backyard and get some members. So sign up.
Good morning. My name is Camille Robertson, and I'm a white person, a member of Lost River Racial Justice. Lost River is a translation of Wantastikit, which is the Abenaki name for this region, and so we chose our name in recognition of the people who came first in the land that we're on today. We do community organizing through a racial justice lens that is accountable to people of color-led organizations, so it's such an honor to get to be here on the stage with all of you. Some of our guiding principles are around transformative justice, collective liberation, praxis, organizational accountability. We have a local and rural-centered focus and are aiming to redistribute power we're also specifically redistribute power from predominantly white folks, the white folks that take up the majority in this state, to people of color-led organizations and communities.
Thank you, everybody. The next part of this is going to be, again, people will be able to go down the line. We have a question for everybody. It's the same question. And it has to do with, for me and for most of this audience, what I call the white bubble we live in here in Vermont. And a lot of bubbles that got popped in the last election. And this looks like another one that should be. What we're asking people here to share is what is it like living and working, especially for racial and social justice, in a community where it's very evident that you're in the minority.
Let me just start by saying that I was under no illusions about the state of this country before the election. I was always aware that we lived in a country that harbored deep racial divides and that things needed to be changed and things needed to be done. As a minority living in the state of Vermont, it is hard, it's challenging. And one of the reasons why I wanted to jump on board with Black Lives Matter is to be a part of my community, an active, working part of my community. It does, however, mean, the Black Lives Matter in Vermont looks different than it does in other states. There's much more white involvement. And that's, it's what it is, and it's working out, we're facing some challenges, but did that answer the question? So as a white woman, I would say that since the election, my understanding has deepened in terms of the lethality of racism and paying attention to the differential for those of us who have white skin. We might be, in extreme distress about the direction our country has gone in, but there's the reality that for people of color in this country, in this community, in this room, that the lethality is a real thing that we need to pay attention. So I think in terms of white privilege and owning that We have work to do to relinquish that privilege. We have work to do to protect those in this community, those beloved community members who are being targeted, who are not feeling safe, and that's the work for me. It's a constant learning curve.
I don't know if you want me to go there. Well, you know, as a man of color, my first 6 months in Brattleboro, I met 90% of the police force here. Not because I called 911, because 911 didn't exist in '79 when I moved here, but because of the assumption that I was a criminal. Now, I was at a point where I could have taken one of two doors, the door of hate or the door of compassion. And I chose the door of compassion, that these are people that simply do not know what they're doing. And over the decades, I now find myself actually training state law enforcement around fair and impartial policing, out of this compassion that if we can get law enforcement to think and act differently, then we have hope so that my son and hopefully grandchildren will not encounter the same kinds of injustices that I did as a much younger man.
You went there. I would say that, again, the NAACP has been around since 1909, and being in Vermont and knowing that Vermont is like one of the whitest states in the United States, it was like very shocking to see that the NAACP is putting its root in different states and doing also this different work and great work in their communities, but not up north as much as it is in the South. So therefore, just bringing this organization here in the Windham County with its resources and research and history, I think is very essential because, as we all know, the racial discrimination has been around and the conversation are talked in certain communities and not others. So just having the NAACP and Windham County to have a space for people to come together and have honest conversation could just impact and make things change.
So the question of what does it mean to organize around racial justice in a predominantly white state is the question that Lost River grew out of. We started with a study group to look at how other organizations around the country are doing that. As a group founded by white people, still with white folks in leadership. Educating ourselves was our first step, knowing that we don't know enough and that need to learn more. We're now about 2 years into our organization and prioritize accountability to people of color-led organizations with humility and listening and relationship building, being willing to show up again and again. Some of the local amazing organizations that we get to work with and support include Black Lives Matter Vermont South, Vermont Partnership for Fairness and Diversity. We're so excited that the NAACP is coming as well. The Root Social Justice Center, I'm Vermont 2 project that Sheila's been a part of, as well as Migrant Justice up north. So we prioritize these local relationships and take leadership, take notes, but also know that it's our responsibility to develop our own strategy and do the work. We are also an affiliate of the national organization Showing Up for Racial Justice, which has taken on the role of undermining white support for white supremacy and help building a racially just society. So that's also, we lean on them to stay in touch with the national movement.
Thank you to everybody. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So two-part question. How is it growing up in Brattleboro? So as I had said, I'm born and raised in Brattleboro, and I get this question asked of me pretty much every week, and I have two responses. I have the POC, which is a person of color response, and then I have the just everyday human being response of what it's like living in Vermont. And living in Vermont as a regular person, I bet you all can identify slow pace, maybe better schools, better food, the mountains, the rivers, everything that we all moved here for, stayed here for, that we like. That's why I'm here. But as a person of color, it's completely different, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. And I'm just gonna be really blunt and honest about that. For all you who are my friends in the audience, for all of you who really know me, this is not something new to you. But if you didn't know, I'm letting you know now, it sucks. And for me, the first day I realized that I was a black little girl was the first day of kindergarten when I was called a nigger and pushed down on the playground. From that day forth, I was no longer Sheila. I was a brown girl, and in this community, I was a nigger. And that's how, by many people, many institutions, and by many situations, I've been treated in this community. So how do I organize with that? How do I organize in the second whitest state in the nation that vacillates back and forth between number one? How do I organize in a community where I feel isolated, oppressed, repressed, and thrown away? How do I organize in a community where we as people of color as a whole, and then within the black community itself, are extremely divided and are constantly having to deal with our own racial inferiority, our own self-hatred, our own issues of trauma and needing to heal? So one of the things that I've been doing is I've chosen that my work is no longer going to focus on white people. Yeah, we can applaud for that. And I'm being very blunt with that because I want people to hear that, because I have a stage to say that. And for a long time, I've been thinking that I can lead a multiracial movement, and that we can hold hands and sing kumbaya and do all that stuff, and that's a lie. It's a lie. Because if it was true, we would have been done it by now. So the reality to it is unfortunately, the words that people may not want to hear is that us as POCs, as people of color, we need to get it together. We need to have the resources, the spaces, and the opportunity to be in one with each other. We need those spaces to be able to heal, to congregate, to socialize, to network, and to organize. And right now, most of those spaces are filled with white people. Most of those resources are owned by white people. Most of those things that we need to get are from white people. And what we need to do is, like Camille said, we need to shift those resources into communities of color. We need to shift those spaces into communities of color, and we need to support the communities of color to be able to even come together, to get out of isolation, to begin to heal. So I invite those of you who identify as peoples of color, that we have two very great programs that I am a part of. One of them that was mentioned is the I Am Vermont 2 project, which is a photo story project challenging racial microaggressions in Vermont. You must be a self-identified person of color living or going to school in Vermont to participate. I can tell you all about it. We have a Facebook page, See Me. The other thing I would like to invite people to is a Soul Food Sundays, which actually happens today, and I'll be leaving very soon, from 2:30 to 5:30, once a month on Sundays at the Root Social Justice Center. And what Soul Food Sundays is POCs getting together to eat some food and do whatever we want. Heal, talk, have fun, network, or organize. So this is a way that I'm choosing to focus my energy in my communities of color, because we, as all of you are educating yourself and organizing yourselves as white people, we as people of color need to heal and organize ourselves too.
Thank you to everybody. We have a next step to this is we want to open some questions up to the audience here, and then we'll try and discern what would be a good question for the group. But I want to check, we have a timekeeper in the back here, and it's really difficult to be able to try and formulate your thoughts talk and keep track of time. So we have somebody in the back. I just want to check how we're doing for time right now. We've got 5 minutes. Okay, so you could probably get one question. Anyway, does anybody have a question? And if anyone else has one,
what I hear everybody saying is that people move to Vermont because it's a white state. Because white, and if I'm not hearing you, then please holler. But that so far that's what I'm hearing. One thing, what does that say for our state? And how can we change it?
So thank you very much. This continues to be very enlightening. I went to the Black Lives Matter press conference on whatever day it was, Thursday, I believe. This past week, Curtis could tell us better. Some of the others of you could as well. I actually live with Kyle Morris in Montpelier, and I served on the Education Committee with the only other Black member of the House, and that is Coach Kevin Christie. My question to all of you is, having served on the Education Committee for 4 years, and having served now on the House Commerce and Economic Development Committee, I would like to know, and first and foremost I want to say we're having Curtis up soon, and I'm going to try my best on that same day he comes up to address the Windham County delegation, which I organize the meetings for twice a month. I'm going to get Curtis on the agenda, I hope. My chair is in charge of the agenda, but for the House Commerce and Economic Development Committee, one of the things we know, we need to do a better job. Okay, Mike, so my question is, if you have your top 5, education and economic development, signs on the highway, signs at barbershops where that man was so mistreated, what would your top 5 be? I welcome any of you and all of you to answer. Thank you.
I don't understand the question.
Yes, I don't understand. All right.
Molly, you have a question also?
Very similar. I was just going to say, I was curious what you all would like to see happen in the schools. What would be your top priority or 2 to have?
So if everybody didn't hear that, Molly's question was, what should be happening in our schools?
If you, I'd like you all to take a turn with one of those questions.
Okay. I'm going to take the first question. You misheard the responses, okay? There's a wide diversity within the communities of color as to why we are here and how we got here. Like, Sheila was born and raised here. I came here because, I like to ski. And, 79, that was what brought me here. People come here because of school, they like it, they stay here. Some people like the safety, some people like, they have jobs here. So there's, I want you to erase the monolithic notion of what it means to be a person of color. We all share a common experience in terms of microaggressions and racism, discrimination, but our individual stories are very, very different in terms of what keeps us here. I will see you whenever you schedule me. Okay. And the most important thing legislatively is the passage of House Bill 492 and Senate Bill 116, which will establish a racial justice reform committee. Yeah, an oversight board, excuse me, thank you.
So one of the things I wanted to say about the schools directly in Brattleboro, what we can do. How many, by a show of hands, know Michaela Sims? Raise your hand. How many know what her role is? So her role is diversity, one of her roles is diversity coordinator for the district. How much support do you think she gets for that role? Yeah.
Almost none.
Almost none. How much resources do you think she gets for that role?
0.
So Michaela is in a great position in the school to be able to help our youth of color. There's what we call an AWARE group there, which was actually started when I was in high school there because of the racial torment that we received when I was in high school at BUHS. It is still in existence, but there is little to to no resources or capacity to bring the youth together, to get money together for trips, for education, or for whatever. The district looks at diversity, even though I know that they've worked hard with many different groups and collaboratives and this and this and that. It still isn't meeting the boat. So I would say the bills that are coming forth definitely is something that's needed, but we need to be going to making sure that that school board has people of color on it. We need to make sure that our staff and administration have people of color in their hiring, and we also need to make sure that we actually support the people of color who are working in the school and their positions that are helping our youth of color right now.
Just one thing to add to what Sheila was saying, you know, as a person of color in this community, you can go a week without ever seeing another person of color in a position of authority, as a teacher, in any position of authority, and that needs to change. You know, there need to be teachers of color in our communities, or else we cannot address the issues that children of color face in those schools.
I'd like to thank, we have to wrap up now. This is another panel coming on, so I'm sorry that everyone can't address this, but I want to, can we please thank the people who... One of the things we want to happen here is not just this kind of dialogue, listening, but everyone here is going to be around, so if you want to talk with somebody subsequent to this, please feel free to go up and continue these conversations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get started. So welcome to the Social Justice Panel. For those of you who missed me earlier, I'm Becca Balint. I'm one of your 2 state senators, and I'm happy to be moderating this panel. So we're going to get right to it because these folks have a lot to say about the work that they do here. So I'm going to ask them each to introduce themselves, speak for just 1 minute about how and why folks might want to get involved with the work that you do. And we'll start right here.
Great. Hello, my name is H.B. Lizito, and I'm the director of Green Mountain Crossroads. We're based here in Brattleboro. We connect rural LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people to build community, visibility, knowledge, and power. We do that in a lot of different ways, some ways that look more like what you might think of in a traditional LGBTQ service organization. We have monthly support groups for young people. We have a book group for trans-identified adults. But then we also do a lot more creative things. We're really interested in expanding, looking at all the many different ways that rural and small town LGBTQ people have different kinds of experiences. So we have in the fall, we have a 2-day long summit we call Out in the Open, which looks at a lot of different intersectional issues, prison and policing and racial justice organizing. Wrap up! 1 minute. So one thing that we're also very into resource. So we're building an ally fundraising circle this year, which is a great way for allied folks to get involved. We're raising $30,000. If you want to commit to raising $3,000 for Green Mountain Crossroads and LGBTQ organizing in this community, talk to me.
As you can see, a minute goes very quickly. So.
My name is Calvin. I'm with the Hive Mutual Support Network. We're based in Brattleboro, and our objective is to create spaces and infrastructures for our community to be able to meet each other's needs on a peer-to-peer basis. We recognize that that's about more than emotional health and wellness, which is what a lot of our support groups are aimed at, but we also are looking at addressing one another's needs in all realms of life, recognizing that some of the institutions that are in place to provide us services are sometimes helpful and sometimes harmful, and often both, and that they don't meet all of our needs. And so we are here to create venues for us to connect with each other, to strengthen our capacity to care for each other and our confidence as community members. I'm just reading out a brochure that you can pick up at our table, which is down there in the hallway. The best way to connect with us is our monthly potlucks on the first Saturday of every month. Those are open, and you can show up and eat or not and connect with us. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Willow, and I'm representing the Women's Action Team, which is a feminist group in Brattleboro that formed in the wake of the election, kind of looking around and trying to fill in the gaps with all these incredible organizations locally. So I'm just going to cheat and read our mission statement, which I meant to memorize. We are a group of feminists inspired by resistance and resilience. We fight for sexual freedom, health and safety, reproductive justice, and the recognition of the full rights of all women. We combat rape culture, misogyny, patriarchy, and all other forms of oppression. Just small, no big deal. We are one force in a multifaceted opposition working in solidarity against intolerance and hate. We invite you to join us for political action and artful organizing. And my time is up.
Hi there, my name is Nick Jarek. I'm here with the Planned Parenthood Vermont Action Fund today. The Action Fund is the political side of the work that Planned Parenthood does. The very important work that Planned Parenthood does on the non-political side is providing care to women and men of all ages, of all income, care no matter what, and keeping our doors open around the state and around the country. What's going on right now nationally, I think most people are following. If you want more information, go to istandwithplannedparenthood.org and please sign up to get updates. We don't know what's coming exactly. We're going to fight it as long as we can and as hard as we need to. But it's about getting as many people to come together, be in touch, and work together to stop what's happening nationally.
Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Rainville. I just want to say a few words about Families First. Families First is a great nonprofit organization for people with disabilities. At Families First, there are many fun activities. One of the many fun things we have is called Peer Group. Peer Group Day is one of my favorite days. It always happens on Tuesday, and we often go on trips to fun places. We've gone on outings to Northampton, and one of our big trips is traveling together to Boston. We also have many other activities, such as game day, lunch bunch, Friday sing-along, and art. The group is also an advocacy group, and I am lucky to be the president of it. The name of this advocacy group is actually Wild Hope's Advocacy Group. Oh dear Lord. Please Louise. I can do this. I did time it. This is a time where all of our peers get to speak about what they need and our voices can be heard. This is a great group. The staff here are amazing, and so are my awesome friends. I love being a part of Families First. Please check out our website, familiesfirstvt.org. Thank you very much.
So hi everybody, my name is Sherry. I'm one of the advocates of the Women's Freedom Center. We are the Domestic and Sexual Violence Resource Agency in Windham and Southern Windsor County. A lot of folks still know us by our original name, which was the Women's Crisis Center. We've now been doing this work in our community for 43 years. One of the first questions we're often asked, understandably given our name, is whether we only work with women. And we always want to make sure people know we work with all survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Some of the supports that we provide is our 24-hour crisis hotline. In fact, our hotline advocate is in the audience with us here today. So that hotline is covered year-round. We have a confidential shelter where usually moms and their kids can stay who are fleeing domestic violence. And after a lot of fundraising, we're about to double our capacity. We do advocacy out in the community with law enforcement, the courts, the medical system, whatever survivors might need. And then what brings us right here to this circle is we do a lot of community outreach and education, and we see ourselves as a social change organization. And we welcome volunteers. We can talk with you more about that. We have a pretty active Facebook page that lists a lot of the things that we do year-round that everyone is welcome to, including our male allies. One of the biggest things coming up is our Take Back the Night rally, April 27th. I can talk with people about that. Thank you.
So Sherry, just hold the mic. So I want to make sure we understand that all the organizations here are here volunteering their time today. And I really want to acknowledge that once again, you're giving up weekend time away from your families to be here to help us organize. So thank you. Here's the question I want you, yes. I'm going to start with Sherry and then we'll work down from there. Here's what we want you to think about. It's often most comfortable and most compelling to organize around the issue of like the most immediate existential threat, okay? But how do you go from there to bringing allies into the work that you do?
Big question, right? I would say, at least at the Women's Freedom Center, that's actually always been a balance that we've tried to strike. Because, you know, as many folks know, we changed our name some years ago from Crisis Center to Freedom Center to broaden out and really kind of reflect the bigger work that's going to take all of us, because it's, you know, mostly the advocates that are doing the direct crisis work, but we're never going to change anything. We're going to keep treading water if our work doesn't actually invite people's best thinking. So a lot of the things that we do are an extension of these bigger conversations. For instance, the Women's Film Festival is still going on. Today is the last day. Everyone is welcome to this festival to sort of raise awareness about the issues and sort of the stake we all have in social justice. So I think it's about the ways we put the message out there to let people know that we need them, their thinking is welcome, and we're not going to make change without them.
Wow. Big question. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Being a client of Families First and having disabilities, I'm not incredibly sure because I'm not a worker, so I really can't.
Well, let's shape it this way.
But Julie,
what brought you to the organization?
What
brought you in?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What brought me in? Well, first I gotta say. Well, first I saw people who were very kind. Definitely, people who were just so incredibly welcoming, and you know, the staff are just, like I've said, you know, the staff are just amazing. We're like a big, huge family, hence the name Families First. And I say it all the time because we're so, thank you very much. It was, and really I loved having people who are willing to work with me and to just, big support for all of our staff, for all of the staff who have worked with me, and having a choice in the matter, and just having choices, and having our trips. And I heard about, another reason why I think I definitely did was because of our big, huge trip to Six Flags. That's what definitely brought it in. I was like, we go to Six Flags? Really? Well, I'm joining Families First.
Tell it like it is. I love that, laying it out there.
But I love it. Yes.
That was perfect. Thank you.
So it's an interesting question. Around a phrase like existential threat, it's usually...
You can take it, Nick. I know you can take it.
On Planned Parenthood right now, I mean, what we are looking at with the National Defund effort is an existential threat. Absolutely. But if you look at it with a slightly longer frame of reference, we've been under an existential threat for 100 years now, and we've figured out a way to keep going. I think this is as dire as it has been, but we will figure it out, and it takes people in rooms like this. In Vermont, in a lot of ways, we've had it really good. We have powerful allies all around the state in the legislature, and we've been able to work with them. We're in a new era where we really need to organize in a way that we've never had to do before. We're focusing all our effort right now on defeating what's happening nationally. If it does happen, we're going to focus all our efforts on mitigating the effects of it. We're going to litigate it, and we're going to delay it, but we are planning for a variety of ways this could go. And what we need is people here to join and become part of. We're starting local action teams around the state. We have a table here. Lisa Ford is at the table now. She's organizing the local group here. And we stand strong with our allies, it's not just Planned Parenthood is part of many, many groups that are under attack right now. And so the way we face an existential threat is we organize and we push back.
There's two ambitious projects that the Women's Action Team is tackling right now that I'm really excited about and wanted to share as quickly as I can. One is a listening project, sort of breaking the silence video project around people's personal reproductive stories, and with the aim of destigmatizing and demystifying reproductive everything around reproduction. But specifically abortion, birth control access or lack of treatment by healthcare professionals, forced sterilization, all kinds of issues that are around reproduction. And the aim is with the idea that when people really hear other people's stories, it's harder to take away their rights. And so that is the aim of our video project, and it's been incredibly illuminating filming them. I've been filming them with a lot of help, and it's been incredible, and I'm excited to release them hopefully soon. And the other project that people are tackling is is drafting actual progressive reproductive justice legislation for hopefully submission to Vermont State. And that's also incredibly thrilling, and we've been organizing for marches and the strike day and things like that, but these more ambitious sort of longer term projects is what I'm super thrilled about. And if anyone has any questions, we have our table at the other end of the hall.
So I would say that a big threat to our existence that I'm currently seeing and fearing is a lot of defunding of a lot of the services that our communities rely on for survival. And the Hive has been doing our work for a few years now, recognizing that even before our current political climate, that there's a lot of limitations to what resources are available to folks, and so really trying to find resources in our communities to meet each other's needs. And so as we're looking at now the safety nets that people really do rely on, possibly not being there very soon, we're trying to really ramp up in terms of locating, identifying resources and people with skills. And so we've been working with some other groups in the area to look at alternative ways of meeting each other's needs. We've also been doing some work on, on alternatives to policing, recognizing that a lot of communities are affected by, or hurt by, some of the ways that policing happens in our community. And so looking at ways to support each other that don't need to rely on systems and institutions that, again, like I said, have been really harmful. So a lot of what we're doing is looking at ways to catalog kind of what the resources are in the community. And so, what we need is to, continue like a cataloging of, who has the resources, can share them, and also trying to really reach out to the most vulnerable among us and really figure out what are the needs and to make sure that they're being met.
Thank you.
So when I'm thinking about immediate threats, we've had a lot of immediate threats lately for our LGBTQ community, especially in rural and small town communities. We had an experience just after the election, actually, when a lot of people were organizing really immediately mostly around transgender people who were needing to change documents, and we had some really incredible ally action here in Brattleboro. A local teacher made a quilt and raised $2,000 for us to redistribute that money to transgender people who were needing to update documents before the inauguration of this president. So we're, as Green Mountain Crossroads is getting more and more well known, we're really seeing a lot of allies just step into that role of, hey, we are hearing you, we see you have a need, let us help you fill it. We're a very small organization. I'm the only person, I'm part-time. Last year our budget was $35,000. We put on over 95 events and worked with over 2,000 people, so we know how to do a lot with very little. And what we, and honestly what we need right now, folks on the last panel were talking about shifting resources. We need those resources. That doesn't just mean financial, there's a lot of other ways you can participate. Drive your LGBTQ young people in your life to our Friday night group. Talk to your friends when they mess up your friends' pronouns. There's a lot of different and creative ways that you can participate either with us organizationally as an ally or in your own lives. And I'd be happy to talk with you about all those different ways.
Thanks, HB.
Let's thank the panel. We don't have time for questions. Thank you.
1 minute to introduce themselves and the organizations that they represent. So we'll start here with you, Ericka.
Give everybody a moment to get settled in their seats before we get started.
How's everybody doing? Good? Yeah. Sweet. So you ready for this? This is really important right now because what we're gonna try to build is young people. Like we have to start from the very beginning, right? So this is very important, and we all, if you want to come in closer, maybe there's jackets, I don't know. But this is really important. If you're gonna not be here, please step out. And if you're gonna be here, please be present, because this is very interesting. And yes, and I'm gonna go check if there's any more parents outside. So I'll be back.
Come on, parents.
All right, thank you, Esler. And Ericka, will you begin?
Hello, my name is Ericka Korb, and today I'm here at this moment representing Mother Up, which is an offshooting of 350.org, which is a national and a state organization, and Mother Up was created from a grant out of 350 to help families engage in climate change justice, recognizing that as parents we're particularly strong stakeholders in our future here on this planet, our children's future, and so wanting to find a way that makes it easy and engaging for parents and children to step into that conversation and start working towards our transition to a cleaner way of living. So the way that our group mostly operates is around a central monthly meeting that happens at Kids Place once a month. And there's a free meal and there's free childcare, so it's very accessible. And then we have a conversation that a topic that we address each month. And then after that monthly meeting, we have subgroups that split up and work on more specific initiatives. So there's chances to do letter writing and calling and planning trips and marches. So it's a really very accessible way and very safe space for children to step into. And now here's Anne.
Hi, I'm Anne Braden, and I'm here representing the Local Love Brigade. And the idea behind the Local Love Brigade is to send postcards of love to victims of hate and to help support them and make sure that they are not feeling isolated and to build up the fabric of our society so that it's based on love and connection rather than letting it be controlled by the divisive rhetoric of fear and division. And so it's actually something that can be very family friendly. It's, we've got the tables in the back, you've got stickers, you've got stamps, and it's a very full age range. And so the easiest way to get involved is the Facebook group. But if you're not on Facebook, it's Local Love Brigade Vermont. And then if you're not on Facebook, there's a website that's a Google Doc that the actions get updated every couple of days so you can stay up to date and get your kids involved that way.
Hi, I'm Robin Morgan, and I'm representing the Family Solidarity Action Network, which I feel like we're sitting in the wrong order a little bit. This is like basically a spin-off of the Parenting for Social Justice chats that are led by Angela. And basically, this is a group of parents that are committed to social justice parenting and activism. And our main way of communicating right now also is through a Facebook group, but we can communicate via email as well. Our current projects that we're working on are trying to create a family-friendly protest initiative. So at the protests that are already being organized by so many of the other great groups here, we are going to try to show up with a space delineated for families and kids to all be kind of in the same area, and sorry, we're going to have other child-friendly activities like sign making, snacks, and things that make it more available for parents to come out to these events with their kids. We're also working on creating a child care collective that could provide child care kind of like what they have at the Mother Up events, so that parents who have young kids could come and participate in those groups that they might have felt were sort of off the table for them with having young kids. And we're also going to have gatherings for parents to kind of chat and connect over these issues.
Hi everybody, I'm Angela Brookfield, and I about a year ago, parents asked me to take the social justice workshops that I was doing for the wider community and to really tailor them for parents. And I said, I don't know, I don't know how to talk to my kids about racism and class, but actually we need to be on this journey together. It's really important that as parents, and grandparents and people who are caregiving for kids, that we are actively engaging with our kids around these very real issues that are happening every day. And our kids are absorbing our energy about these things, but we're not helping to give them language. And so the Parenting for Social Justice chats are really about supporting that, those conversations in our families, and then to be able to show up for action. So what we've seen over the past year having these chats with parents and grandparents is that so many more families are now active and involved in rallies and protests and in meetings and events and what's happening, and starting groups at their schools to talk about equity and diversity. So it's very exciting. We have chats happening right now at the Brattleboro Brooks Memorial Library, and we are going to continue chats in Putney at the Putney Library and connect that to action. So get involved if you aren't already.
We're going to take some questions from the room, but I first have just one question for all of you, which is that how do you respond to people who say that they want to protect their children from the sorrow and the pain of the world? And how do you find that balance between expanding your children's awareness and protecting them?
Yeah, it's a fine line. There's a balance there, and it's a really good question. Like I said a little bit ago, that our kids, what if they can say it or not, they know what's going on. They can feel it, and so finding developmentally appropriate ways to have those conversations with our kids is really important. And we can use resources. There's really good children's books and activities that we can be doing. And also, it's not just having the conversations, but it's taking action. So showing up, being at events like this, being at meetings, us as adults participating in changing the world to be more just and equitable, and our kids being a part of that positive energy of creating the world that we want to see. That's, at least for me, I think how we walk over, that balance.
I think one of the things that I came to when I was with my kids, my daughter was a newborn when I started Gun Sense, so this was very much a question that I had to be asking myself. And I feel like I want my kids to know that when bad things happen, there are people doing what they can to make it better, and that they can be someone who can do what they can to make it better. And so that it's not just like, well, it's horrible. Yes, it's horrible, but all this positive energy is there. And I feel like like you're gonna run into things that are bad, like no matter how old you are, and you want to have that framework that it doesn't stop there. It's not just things are bad, it's that things are bad, but we can do something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I also fall in the camp of believing that we should protect our children as much as we can. And I just think that there is a way of framing up conversations so they're not scary and they are empowering, and inviting them to participate so they feel like they have power themselves and are not just passive participants in their world. So for me, it's just a matter of having children involved in the process of creating the kind of world that we want to see, and that's an ongoing job, regardless of what's happening in the world at any given point. And so this is a great way for children to step into that movement in their lives and continue it forward.
This was a really personal and difficult issue for me, actually, before I started coming to these parenting chats and just following the news, especially about a lot of police brutality, and thinking about how this is something every citizen should know about, but how do I bring this to my little kids? And it was such a disturbing subject to me. It didn't seem like I can't tell my 4-year-old about this. What do I say? And I wish there was a script that I could just follow, that somebody else would tell me, what do I say to my kids about, racism, for instance? Because up to that point, I knew that it was important to talk to kids about race, but the furthest I'd gone with it was kind of look at all the different ways people look, and those were all awesome. It was a very superficial conversation. And I was sort of thrust into the conversation before I had prepared myself, but as a white mother of white children, I think that is sort of a luxury that we take, that we can decide when to have this conversation. And in my case, what happened was nothing traumatizing, but a book that my daughter's class read in nursery school that was about Martin Luther King. It's a great book, Martin's Big Words. And in the end of the book, it talks about his life story, so there's a sad ending. And she came home from school and was like, oh, we learned about Martin Luther King today. And I was like, what did you learn? And she was like, well, they killed him. And I was like, okay, I guess we're going there. So I sort of stumbled through this conversation. And after that, as I started going to these parenting chats, found that exactly what Angela had said. There's so many books that have been written on this subject that if you can find the one that's right, there's the script that I was looking for. Here's someone who has very thoughtfully described this in a child-friendly way, and that can be a stepping stone to having these conversations that we feel as parents really afraid of imposing on our children.
Yeah. I would just wanted to add that there was that question in the racial justice panel about living in a bubble and how do we discuss and work on racial justice issues living in a bubble. And so I think there's just an extra burden and responsibility of parents, especially white parents living in Vermont, to make sure that we're not ignoring this issue. And questions from the audience? Yes.
I work at a daycare that's primarily white kids, blondes, it's weird. I am interested in good books because they're 1 to 5, and you're the teacher, you're not the mom, and it's really about following their lead and what they're interested in and what they're called to. So is there a resource list? Do you have a list of books that you're using actively and that's available?
Yes. Connect with me if you'd like that list. And also, if you go to the Act for Social Justice website, you can find resources and books on that website.
Yeah, did Paige publish something about that? The
I
library?
think on the Brooks Memorial website, there's also a list of books that the Brooks Memorial Library has. But yes, you can look on their website. If it's not there, it will be soon.
I would just chime in that as a parent, and I imagine as a teacher too, yes, you want kids to follow their own interests, but you also have a lot of sway, and you can put books in front of them that they might not pick up on their own. And They're sponges. Other questions? Samantha.
I feel very passionate about public education, and I'm wondering how you've been engaging. I've just been wondering how your groups have been engaging with the public schools around here and what kind of reception you've had.
Well, as sort of an outcome of some of the discussions we've had in the parenting chats and the Family Solidarity Action Network, there's a bunch of parents in Brattleboro at least 2 of the town's schools who have created an equity and diversity initiative at their schools. There's one already going at Academy School and at Oak Grove School to kind of see what we can do to bring more equity to our schools and our classrooms, and also to kind of, as a community, get together to talk about, and the school community get together to talk about and celebrate the different kinds of diversity that we have at our schools and in our communities. And I know that there's also some interested parents at Green Street School and possibly in some of the other surrounding towns as well that are looking to create something like that.
And Robin ran for school board.
I'm now a school board member at the Brattleboro Town School, so this is definitely one of the things I will be interested in seeing what I can do to support at that level as well.
Engaged teachers, there are a lot of us who want to be involved.
Great.
There's a question over here.
I'm just wondering, as Becca was pointing out about moving from a place of love, so I can express my sadness about the state of our country, or I can express outrage in these different ways. But how can we sort of cultivate that moving from a place of love to our children?
I think that's, well, I personally love that question. I think that looking for every example, like I think kids really learn from the little things and the little ways that people are treated, and looking for examples of like kindness is something that's something that they understand, and it's something where if you call out times that even little things are not kind, I think that becomes the sort of framework of it has to be kind, and so I'm going to wrap up because that's what the sign says. But I think that we have this chance. Kids are learning everything from these little moments, and so it is a big topic that we're tackling. But I think we can do it one little interaction at a time.
And our time is up, but all of these people will be at tables, and you can go find them and sign up and get your kids involved. I will just say that I have never had so much fun as I have had being activated with my children. They love making signs. They love coming to events with me. They feel connected to what I do, which isn't always the case. So it's fun. They're in the back right now, chowing down on Anand's Thai food. All right. Thank you all. I'm transitioning to now, we're going to be doing the Getting Political panel. It's not a big transition at all, really. I'm from calm yoga to really get in there politically. Thank you all. So this is the Getting Political panel. Before I start that, I would like to thank Laura Tabachnik for doing such a wonderful job of yoga. There are flyers down here for Yoga Locally, and so if you feel moved, come get one before you go. Also, Emily, do you have the basket? Emily's going to
come back with a basket that has a place for donations, because we were able to raise the money for this event, which was fabulous. But now, looking forward, we have ongoing costs of maintaining a website. So we're gonna pass a basket, and it'll be great to have some financial support just to help us keep that going month to month. So I'm happy to be here to moderate the Getting Political panel. I'm going to let each participant introduce themselves in about a minute, say who they are, what organization they represent, what the mission of the organization is, and how to get involved. Just, quick, 1 minute. So we'll start with Representative Mike Rickie.
Hi, I'm Mike Rowicki. I live in Putney, and I represent Putney, Dummerston, and Westminster in the Vermont House of Representatives. And I'm here especially as a Vermont Democrat. And why I say that is because I think a lot of us have had some challenges with what's happening in the political landscape. But I hope people remember that what's happening in Vermont is very different than what's happening nationally. And I hope what we're doing in Vermont can translate nationally. And we've got a lot of good things, a lot of good people working here, and I hope we can continue to grow that. So I'll leave it here.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Holloway, and I just want to get an extra 30 seconds just because I think this is so important. In the 1960s, American philosopher, educator, and author, Dr. Mortimer Adler had expressed concern that the citizens were not being taught how to use their free time effectively and constructively, and that he thought it would be a detriment to this country, and I think we're seeing that now. He argued the aim for civic education is to, quote, seeks to develop free human beings who know how to use their minds and are able to think for themselves. It produces citizens who can exercise their political liberties responsibly, develops cultivated people who can use their leisure fruitfully, and it's an education for all free men. So in that inspirational quote, along with Nancy Byrne and Anna Marie Pluhar, we are working together to create a long-term ongoing meetup, hopefully in the select board room in Brattleboro is what we're looking at right now for space, for people to learn civics, just Civics 101, to share what they know, and to also just make free time and space for you to work on civic projects, either alone or with others. And also, if you're not sure how to be civically, and like what you really want to do yet, we'll have some tables aside for people to learn some of the aspects of being civically engaged. So that will hopefully be coming up soon. We're really focusing on making sure it's a structure that's going to be consistent. And it's called the Civic Community. So if you're interested, we will be on the We Can Facebook page, but it's theciviccommunity@gmail.com. Thank you.
Clap for us.
Hi there, I'm Peg Alden, and I'm up here representing two different organizations, both of which have as their mission to kind of harness the energy that we have in predominantly democratic communities and channel it elsewhere to other districts that might need our support. And the two different organizations that I'm representing here and at the table out there are an organization called Swing Left, and their focus is specifically on the House race in 2018, the national House races, and they're interested in pairing us with local, geographically local districts, and so that's kind of a boots on the ground kind of work with District 2 over in New Hampshire. The second organization that I'm working with is called Sister District Project, and that project is interested not just in the House race, but in a whole range of different races. They're a little more interested in the redistricting issues that are happening on the state level, and so that's a slightly different project, but with a similar goal.
Hello everyone, my name is Amelia Lawrence Darrow,
And I'm not here representing a specific organization, but I'm here to shine a light on the judicial branch, the third branch of government. I'm a local attorney, and my sort of activism is really focused in two areas. One is government oversight, the idea of ethics in government. There is a bill going through our legislature right now. It's already passed the Senate and it's moved over to the House to establish a Vermont Ethics Commission. We do not have one at this point. And if this bill passes, we'll have the opportunity to establish a commission that is an independent body that will oversee government action. This would be in the areas of conflicts of interest and influence of money in politics. And we need that here in Vermont. I'm also want to just give a shout out to attorneys around the country that have become first responders as responding to the who knew attorneys were first responders, but they are indeed, we are, in response to executive orders. So that's what I'm here for.
Hi, I'm Laura Casey. I'm here representing the Putney Huddle. We formed out of the Women's March Action Organization. They have 10 steps in 100 days, and that was the second step. We are still forming our mission. Currently, we're a small group from Westminster, Dummerston, and Putney that meet about once a month, and we're working on consolidating political actions to increase their effect.
And I'm just going to add in that there's a number of other similar groups that are all tabling, and we couldn't fit them all on the panel, but we wanted to have at least one representative group so you know it's easy to get involved.
Right, there's at least 4 huddles right now.
Hello, I'm Matthew, and I'm representing Indivisible. Indivisible is a strategy and an organization. The strategy is to adopt Tea Party tactics, which were highly effective to move the Republicans to the right and to oppose the Democratic Party, but to do it so from the left. So we work, it's very tightly focused, primarily a defensive strategy, opposing the worst parts of the Trump agenda by lobbying the people that you vote for, because those are the people who are obliged to listen to you. So that would be, some folks are concerned because Vermont seems like such a left-leaning place that it wouldn't be effective. That's simply not true. We've talked to Leahy's office and Welch's office, and I can talk to you at length or answer a question about why it works here. But it's also simply not true that the Democratic Party doesn't need to hear from us here. As an organization, what it means is that there is a chapter in Brattleboro, in Saxons River, and in Wilmington. We make several phone calls a week and probably 1 or 2 events a month. And I'd be glad to talk to you about how the strategy works and how you can sign up. We also have a table out there.
I'm Spoon Agave, and I represent the Progressive Party. That is a major recognized political party in Vermont. And we currently have, that was formed in 1991 from many of the same people from which Bernie Sanders came out of when he won the mayoralty there that year. In fact, a lot of the people that worked with him are in the Vermont legislature now. The party always has been a human rights-based political party. It is written, expressed very clearly in the statement of principles and very clearly in the platform. Most of the progressive legislation in the state is either initiated by or sponsored by progressive parties. We have 6 people in the House, 2 senators, the state auditor, and now the lieutenant governor are progressives.
Actually, you have 7. My roommate up in Montpelier is the head of the Progressive Caucus, and I think he would want me to make sure you know they have 7.
7?
Yes.
Even better.
So, for a question I'd like to pose to the group, and don't feel like you have to add in if you don't have anything to say, because we are a large panel, so don't feel any pressure to answer. But Matt alluded to this with regards to Indivisible, but what do you see as the most effective way to take action politically when your political views generally align with those who represent you? So let's pass the mic, however. You can start.
Okay. This is what we heard from Peter Welch, is that he's it. He's it up in Washington, right? And so he, despite the fact that he's doing great work up there, he really appreciates the encouragement because it can just sound like he's just shouting into the storm, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is that there are a lot of avenues that we can pursue in terms of prioritizing what's happening, right? If you look at the governor's office, for example, he's really eager to talk about education funding and a lot less eager to talk about how ACA repeal and replace would play out in Vermont, because it's awkward for him to do that. Senator Leahy's office sometimes takes a more methodical approach to the response to an executive order than we might like. And so I think that continuing to encourage folks on the left to be more enthusiastic and to encourage folks who consider themselves moderate to be explicit about what that means for them is helpful.
So this question is exactly what motivated me to make my choice to put my energy into these projects that look outside of our state, that take the energy that we have here in Vermont and use some of that excess energy and try to spread it out to some other districts and other parts of the country that need our support. So that's how I feel like. I feel like that's a very effective political strategy, hopefully.
Okay, so we can take questions from the audience. I think let's get a few, and then we'll see how to go from there. So who has questions? Harold.
Just briefly tell us what that really means when you say just put your energy into understanding.
Sure. There's these two different organizations.
To repeat the question, she just wants an explicit understanding of what that really means to divert your energy to another state.
Okay. In this case, what that means is for Sister District Project, it means being paired with a district that is swingable in another state and providing, because those districts are likely to be a far distance from us, it means providing financial support. So we're doing some creative fundraising and also phone banking and things like that when it comes to elections. With the other project, the Swing Left, it has to do with being paired with a district over in New Hampshire and doing more boots on the ground, voter registration, canvassing, things like that.
Other questions?
Hi, I have a question. This has to do with feeling inundated by emails because I've signed up for so many things. And I'm writing down groups I want to get participating with, and there's so many. I'm wondering if anyone is working to develop infrastructure where there are like pinpoints that pan down to the smaller organizations. I'm thinking of things like Emily's List tying in with what you were just speaking about. I'm wondering locally if anyone is organizing all these groups in a way that, I don't know exactly how to say it, but I feel like I need the source and then go down from there.
I'll try to answer that, Molly, as best I can. So I too have been feeling a little overwhelmed, and so what made sense to me was to really focus on areas that I felt like I could make a difference and then follow those as closely as possible. So in my case, there's a group that formed right after the election called Lawyers on the Left, and it's now been sort of transformed into Lawyers for Good Government. And it's really focused on activism, but also on policy. And so right now, there's an effort to bring a complaint before the Alabama Ethics Commission against Jeff Sessions. So it's, yeah, right? So, when you pick an issue like that, I mean, it takes people from all over the country to really get the energy behind it. And so I think it's like picking up a thread, as you say. You gave that sort of metaphor, the idea that you're kind of picking an issue, whatever that is, and you're trying to develop strength around that one thing. And that way it doesn't feel so overwhelming because it feels more like a process.
I would say that my take on the situation is that this event happens because so many elections were lost. And the job of coordinating the various parts of people's political life, coming up with a platform of issues that we agree on, running candidates that will support those issues, running opposition to candidates who are opposing those issues, is the traditional job of the guy all the way on the left, the guy all the way on the right on this panel, right, the political parties. But nationally, that hasn't worked. And so we're kind of freestyle compensating for the fact that there isn't a bunch of effective steps in the legal community. There isn't an already existing effort by Democrats in Vermont to help Democrats in New Hampshire for us to step into so the sister district project gets created. There's not already a pre-existing progressive organization which is lobbying moderates to vote in a more left manner, and so my organization exists to make up for this deficit that we have. And I'm hoping that this thing does become organized and starts to take on something like the wholesale effectiveness of a political party that can win elections and put policy in place and then protect that policy instead of individually picking a little hill to try to defend.
The organization that's sponsoring this today, We Can, is the way we can coordinate things together and not to put more work on what's happening now. But as we grow, we can do more. So I think that's one of the pieces here. But I also think it's important, and I appreciate the idea to look outside the state, to remember Vermont can be vulnerable too. The Koch brothers focused most of their money on state races. In Vermont, they targeted 22 state legislators, including me and my district mate, David Dean, and threw money at us along with the candidates who were against us who were part of the gun lobby. The money didn't matter, but it can in other places. So don't assume that we don't have to keep fighting in Vermont, because Minnesota, which was one of the bluest states, went red last year. And if that can happen here, it can happen anywhere. So let's make sure we keep Vermont blue and moving forward too.
And we have one more minute, so let's, I think Spoon wants to say something.
Right now, what's probably more important than anything else is somehow being able to develop some kind of a unified, of some statement, some kind of political statement, or something that can pull all of us together. Right now we have 100 different organizations all doing their thing. We have a lull right now, and I think a lot of this energy is going to kind of dissipate a little bit, but next year, when all of these policies that the government is putting into place begins to hit home, when we see those cuts right here and start losing that stuff, there's going to be yet another surge, and maybe even a stronger surge in activism, and we need to be ready for that, and we aren't yet, because we don't have anything yet to rally around, and we haven't had any leaders yet step forward. So I don't know how, where, and when that may happen. I feel like in this area, if I may say so, that the Root Center is beginning to develop as a center of activity, and I think ought to be supported for that. And there are some organizations that are particularly larger and central, but more and more of them kind of revolve around the Root Center, or they're members of it, or one thing or another. So right now I'm looking for unity.
That's a great place to end, I think. So thank you all so much.
First, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves and speak for 1 minute about who their organization is and why any of you folks would be interested in hanging out with them.
And I'm going to break the rules at the beginning because I'm here representing 2 organizations. My name is Julie Lineberger. I'm a business owner in Wilmington, Vermont, one stoplight town. I have 2 businesses. One is Wheelpad L3C and Linesync Architecture. But I'm here today representing Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility. There is an alternative to a state chamber. And VBSR has over 1,000 business members. And we lobby all the time at the state for things like, hey, it's important to pay a living wage to employees. Paid time off is important. Childcare has a huge economic impact on our state. So we lobby a lot. We work at state. We do a lot of things around green initiatives in all different businesses. And I totally encourage you to join that. The second organization is Green America. Green America does for our whole country what VBSR does for Vermont. And we teach people how to be consumer activists. We do a lot of lobbying also in the state. So thank you very much. It's free to join Green America, greenamerica.org. Get all the email.
Hi, I'm Ellen Schwartz. I'm with the Vermont Workers Center. We're a statewide member-run organization, and we're organizing for workers' rights and also the human right to health care. That's our major campaign at this point. That is about the right of people to get health care and also the right of healthcare workers to livable wages and safe staffing and decent working conditions. We meet every other Tuesday at the Root. Our next meeting is the 28th of March, and it's 6 to 8 p.m. We're always on the Root calendar, so you can check out the calendar, figure out which Tuesday it is. Some of the ways people can get involved are we're having a Solidarity School April 1st and 2nd, which is a political education offering here in Brattleboro. If you go to www.workerscenter.org or come to our table, we can sign you up. We're looking for people to share healthcare stories, and I have to wrap up, so come to our table to find out the other ways you can be involved.
Hi everyone, I am Alex Fisher with the Root Social Justice Center, which you got a little brief snapshot from Ellen and the Workers Center. Quick question, who here knows about the Root? Keep your hands up if you have been to the Root. And who has been there since January? Great. One last question is, who here has organized their own event at the Root? So we have a few different organizations here. So the Root Social Justice Center was founded in 2013 as a space to bring community together for organizing, as several organizers in town found that there were not physically accessible and financially accessible spaces in town that were welcoming of several communities that are often targeted by violence, namely communities of color and queer communities. So the Root is a space to support that work happening. Mostly our programming is around an open space for others to use, and recently we've transitioned to focus on people of color-led organizing coming out of the Root. So check us out for more of that, and I'll probably talk about that more later. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Isaac Grimm, and I am the Political Engagement Director with Rights and Democracy Vermont. We're a bi-state organization based in Vermont and New Hampshire, and we were started up about 2 years ago, and I've kind of come up from being Canvas Director, knocking doors all around the state, to lead organizer to now Political Director, meaning that I'm helping to be in the State House to develop relationships with legislators and others to push forward the legislation that we're organizing for around the state. We've, in the last 2 years since we were founded, helped to pass the paid sick days bill in Vermont, which has secured 5 paid sick days a year for over 60,000 workers in the state. We're currently working on a number of legislative issues, from the $15 minimum wage to family and medical leave insurance. We helped to get a pregnancy worker accommodation bill out of the House committee. And we have a lot of other stuff on our legislative priorities list. So it makes sense for us to be in the economic justice piece, but there's a lot more issues we work on. Check out our table at the end of the hallway down there, and I'll wrap up now. Thanks.
Thank you, all four of you, for being so generous with your comments so that we can have time at the end for people to ask questions, because that's why they're all here today. I really do appreciate it. So we're here to talk about economic justice. And I personally have heard a lot of blaming of poor people since the last election. So what I want to know from you is how you, as an organization, are working to build action in solidarity with people who are living in poverty. Whoever wants to jump in. Sure. And you don't all have to answer if you don't want to.
We're a business BBSR, I'll talk to you first. Again, we are trying very hard to get quality childcare that is it economically impacts people to be able to work in the first place. We are working towards livable wages. We also are the only business organization in Vermont that supports universal health care. We think that health care should not be tied to your place of employment. You should be able to have health care wherever you go, and that gives you freedom to work wherever you want to work. With Green America, we empower people to become consumer activists, and we work really hard with a variety of groups of all different persuasions on our different consumer activism campaigns, and I'll give you an example of a couple of them. We got General Mills to stop using their GMO ingredients in the big yellow Cheerios box. It was really fun. General Mills put out a thing, tell us about your child's first experience with solid food. We told all our people to tell them the truth. And within 3 months, because their website was shut down from all the comments of people not wanting their children to be guinea pigs with GMO food, there are no GMO ingredients in the big yellow box.
Thank you.
Two things I'll do big quick. One is Nestle's. We've got them to agree to stop using child labor in the collection of cocoa by 2018. And another really huge one was there were 3 terrible chemicals used in Apple products. We go after the big guys because once Apple stopped using those 3 chemicals that were creating leukemia for people in China, then Nokia and other people followed suit. So we work really hard on issues that are business issues that affect people living in poverty.
So our organization believes that the way that we make change is by the people who are actually affected by the problems stepping up and speaking for ourselves. And I will just say one part of the answer to that question is that it's actually really challenging because people who are struggling economically have many other struggles that make it hard to do things like go to the State House on a weekday, for example. Some of the things, I'll give 2 examples of things we're doing. One is that we've been canvassing in Brattleboro, and we've been specifically canvassing in neighborhoods where we know that there are poor and working class people. We've been canvassing at Westgate and then the Feet neighborhood in an effort, because if we're not actually talking to people who are affected by these issues, then there's no way that the voices of those people will be part of making the change. I'll also share an example, and I would say it's a mixed success. It's not like, oh yeah, we've done this and we figured out how to do this, and it's like, it's hard. I think it's a long haul thing. I think it has to do with building relationships over time with people and not just assuming that the next action is the be all and end all. The other example I'll give is from our committee up in Chittenden County. We're organized in committees around the state. Each one's called an organizing committee. So the Chittenden County Committee is focused right now on providing community support for a union organizing drive at UVM Medical by LNAs, mental health techs, labor and delivery assistants, and unit secretaries, who are people who are often, many of those people are not earning a livable wage and don't have safe staffing conditions. And so I think the lesson from that is that when there's a situation where poor and working class people are actually organizing, that what the kind of thing that an organization like ours can do is work on building community support for the organizing that that group of people is already doing, rather than assuming that we have all the answers.
Thank you. I'm going to try not to duplicate what's already been said. So one of the first things to me and the work that we do at The Root in acknowledging the relationship between economic justice and racial justice. So thinking about how our political and economic system of current day global capitalism is based on a history of exploitation of people of color, specifically in the US, the accumulation of wealth in white communities and in the owning class is based on a history of genocide and slavery, the building of prisons, of redlining, and keeping people of color from owning property, from policing, and the long history of targeting and assassinating community of color leaders who are organizing working class and poor folks in the history of the US. So thinking about ways that we're linking economic and racial justice together is really central to the work that we do at The Root. That's a little bit more theory heavy. In terms of tangible things that we do is how are we creating spaces where people can come together that don't need to bring resources to that space, but are in fact getting resources from the organizing. So that looks like having childcare provided at our meetings. That looks like having food available and meals available when we're organizing people to come together. That looks like providing transportation for folks to get to events and back home from events. And I think most importantly is taking leadership, kind of going off of what Ellen said, is making sure the culture of our organizing is adaptable, is flexible, and is led by working class and poor folks. So that way the culture of the spaces we're creating is actually conducive to bringing us all together. And I think
class dialogue.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the last thing I wanted to mention is one of the events happening in The Root is Cross-Class Dialogues, which is held by Act for Social Justice, and it is a space for folks of different class backgrounds to come together and work together. And I think as we're talking about working with poor and working class folks is also what is the role of those of us that have wealth and have access to wealth in shifting those resources away from those, again, kind of the history of how we got to that place.
Thank you.
So a lot of really kind of crucial points brought up here that I would second, and just to second that there are enormous barriers to really like having the people who are the most marginalized and who have so limited resources to be front and center, and so it takes a lot of work. And I've seen also just with bringing folks to testify at the State House around paid sick days and around minimum wage, around family and medical leave, the weight that I think business owners tend to get is like 10 times that of a worker. So it's really difficult also with the culture in the State House and just like the kind of respect that is automatically given to business owners. So there's a lot of like, I think helping to educate legislators and bring them into relationship with more of the low-income folks and people of color and marginalized folks in their communities so that they actually can develop relationships with them and understand that. So a lot of what when we canvass and we identify people with these stories, it's following up with them, getting their story, developing relationships with people who are directly impacted by the systems of oppression that are ingrained in our culture and by inequality, by racism and sexism, and really investing in those relationships and working to develop leadership and getting them the tools that they need to develop relationships with people in power, to educate them and to push them. So it's a lot of like what we're working to do always, is identifying people and building their leadership and winning campaigns as we go, pushing for legislation that's going to benefit these folks, getting them connected to legislators, and also training people to run for office themselves. So,
thanks, Isaac. So I want to take 3 questions, and I'm hoping Julie can walk the mic around. Thank you, Julie.
Okay. So my question is, early on in days of activism, back when I was in college, there was this sort of debate. Do you make change from the outside in, or do you participate from the inside? And I'm hearing both of that in your responses today. But I wonder if, with, for example, your first name again? Julie. You mentioned in the beginning there was an alternative to the Chamber of Commerce. and your organization is one. So I'm on the chamber, Brattleboro Chamber, and I just wonder, like, if we could work together, perhaps there might be bigger opportunity for change. So I guess I'm wondering if, in your view, it's more effective to come from the outside for a question of economic justice, rather than come within the more established organizations and work together.
I mean, anyone know what's the state of union organizing around this area? I'd love to know which unions are actually, active and doing anything good. So anyway, I don't know.
Oh, look at that.
All right.
Okay, so you can come up to answer if you want to join the panel. Okay. Do we have a third question?
I have a question / statement because of your question.
Can it be a 15-second
Yes,
question / statement? Thank you.
So, just when you asked your question, I was thinking that I'm wondering if part of organizing from the outside is to get the attention of the inside so that you can work within the inside. So I'm wondering if that might be part of what is going on there.
So it seems that we have two questions. One is about the state of unions, and one is about organizing from the inside out versus the outside in versus inside and outside all around all at once. And we only have about a minute left, so you don't all need to answer everything.
I'll go very quickly. I started out as the chamber president at the Mount Snow Valley. I work with local chambers all the time. VBSR is really an alternative to the state chamber, which really goes along U.S. Chamber of Commerce lines. I would love to work with you. I think it's important to do it from both within and without. And to answer your question, the Vermont State Employees Credit Union is amazing on how they give small loans to businesses and grants to various organizations that are trying to get going. They really focus on non-traditional business owners.
I'm going to start with the second question. I think the biggest unions around here are VSEA and NEA in terms of numbers of people. And I know the co-op union is like a really strong union. Good. And we have unions also at the retreat and BMH and HCRS. And I would be happy to talk to you separately about that one of the things we do is connect with and support unions. So I'd be happy to talk. And then the other question, I have to wrap up and I didn't get to answer the other question.
Go for it.
So I think the inside-outside strategy is I think like Bernie Sanders, somebody laid the ground for him to be able to take that mantle and go with it. And it was all the outside organizing that sort of created that space that made the 99% a thing that everybody knew about. So my view is that you have to have both. And there's this great expression from Podemos in Spain where it's something like, for every foot in the house, you have 1,000 in the street, meaning that you have to have all that outside activity. And that's what pushes legislators, and it also supports legislators who are doing the right thing to know that there's people out there who have their backs. So I don't think it's either or, I think it's both and.
To me, like a beautiful moment to stop on, but if either of you can top it, go for it.
Sure. I'm gonna top it by switching it and saying that I think the notion of inside out is important, and also there's other paradigms and other ways to think about how we organize. And so for me, a lot of work specifically around economic justice is looking at systems. And for me, the question is tearing down while building up. And so how are we tearing down the oppressive system of capitalism while building up alternatives? There's a lot of work that I do in my professional work around co-ops. So looking at ownership of our economic system, looking at who owns and who is profiting from that ownership, and looking at alternatives to individuals and corporations, and looking at collective ownership as a possible move forward. So, but in order to create that, we also need to be tearing down what's already existing.
I'll be very brief, and just to say that in order to do these things, in order to win economic justice, in order to dismantle racism, build systems that are anti-oppressive, We need to be very clear and comfortable and intentional about building power. If we're not building power, we're not going to be able to get anything done. And the way we build power is in intentionally building relationships with each other, building relationships with people in power. And we need to be doing it inside and outside. And we have to get very comfortable with the notion of we have to build power if we want to get anything done.
Thank you to our amazing panelists. I really appreciate you taking the time to come up here. And they're all available at their tables if you'd like to speak with them further. Next up,
Being the last panel, is that we all know how to do this. I haven't seen one. Okay. So what we'll do is we have a distinguished panel today on climate justice. And we'll give each person 1 minute to describe who you're representing and what you need from people, what you're asking for. And then when we wrap up, we will have some questions, starting with my own. So let's see, the best way to do this. Jay, should I pass this or this way?
Yes, the wireless.
Okay.
Was that a go?
Yep, let's go.
Hi, my name is Tim Stevenson. I'm a community organizer with Post Oil Solutions, which is a community organizing project around climate change that has been in existence since 2005. Basically, our outlook is one that we are on our own when it comes to dealing with this unprecedented crisis of climate change. I think it's a serious mistake to continue to have any hope that there'll be an outside force, whether that be including Mother Nature, that is going to come to our rescue at the last minute and save us. We're going to have to learn to take care of ourselves, and that's what Post Oil has been all about. The empowerment of everyday people like you and I, learning to take care of ourselves and our neighbors in a collaborative way. I would say that is essentially the spirit and wrap up. Okay, so quickly, what could we use? We could use more people like Marilyn, who's going to tell you about one of our projects, who would like to get our relearning to feed ourselves workshops going again. Those are one of the most popular things that we did for a number of years, and they have sort of become quiet over recent years. And I think that the time is ripe for us to reintroduce them and have people working on them.
There's a lot more. Thank you. You're doing great.
I'm doing great.
Thank you, Tim. I'm Marilyn from Edible Brattleboro, and our initial mission was to transform public spaces into edible landscapes in and around town. In other words, to grow food everywhere for everyone. Our target audience initially was for people who were food insecure, but it seems like everyone just loves to just pick a cherry tomato when it's there and for the picking, and it's for everybody. We're hoping to encourage homeowners to do the same on their front lawns, or even grow a row from your garden and start contributing to our project, because we're going to be setting up a stand, a weekly stand this year. That's one of our projects. How we can have help is, if anybody wants to do any grunt work, that's great. If you're a good artist, we could use artists to design flyers and signs and so on. So we're looking for anybody who wants to join us.
My name is Caitlin Adair, and I represent the Living Earth Action Group. We are one of those brand new groups that just popped up out of the soil like a mushroom after the Women's March, actually. And we're in Westminster West, and we meet every week for an hour. And we've been kind of feeling our way into what it is that feels right to us to do. And the two projects, there are two projects that are at the moment really exciting us. One is regenerating our soils. This is huge. Regenerating the soils and rehydrating, getting our rain to stay where it falls, and rehydrate our soils. And if we can do this, okay, I gotta stop. Anyway, that's what we're very excited about. We work with circles, we work with listening to each other and feeling our way intuitively in terms of what we want, not what we want to be against, but what we are for.
I am Robin MacArthur, and I am stepping in for Abby Manukin, who is the local coordinator of Mother Up. Mother Up is part of 350 Vermont, and it's a way for families with young children to be involved in the climate movement. We have monthly meetups at Kids Place with free food and childcare for discussions and educational building. And we also have had some weekly meetups to discuss divestment efforts, work with 350 Brattleboro and 350 Vermont. Many of us will be going to the Climate March on April 29th in DC together, and there's also a sister rally in Montpelier, and we just think that parents and the faces of young children should be on the front line of the climate movement because they are the most powerful statement you could possibly have, and the ones who will be affected by this for the longest haul. So, join us.
I'm Daniel Quip, and I'm one of the leadership team of 350 Brattleboro, which is a local group of 350 Vermont, which is a climate action organization which is allied with 350.org, which was started in Vermont but is not a Vermont organization. It's a national and international organization. We meet twice a month for leadership meetings on the first and third Wednesdays, and we typically meet in the co-op community room. The thing that I really want from all of you is, if you're not already on our mailing list, to go to our table and to sign up for our mailing list. And then the second thing I want from you is to have you come to the People's Climate March in DC or Montpelier. And then I guess the third thing that I want is that those of you that are particularly interested in solutions campaigns to come and talk with us and join with the leadership and start to develop those campaigns.
My name is Leslie Sullivan Sachs, and I'm with the Safe and Green campaign, one of many groups that fought successfully to shut down that neighborhood disaster of ours, Vermont Yankee. Now, I would love to say to all the people who came to our table today and said, "But I thought it was closed. Why are you still here?" I would love to say that our job could be over and we could be moving on to some of these solutions-oriented green groups. I would love to do nothing more than that in the world. But instead, I am going to ask you all to keep showing up on Vermont Yankee because it's not over. It's still in the hands of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Trump's NRC, oh boy. So, we are putting our lives in the state's hands. The state is coming down April 6th. It's a Thursday night. They're coming to Vernon. They'll do an information session at 6 o'clock, and then at 7 o'clock, they want to hear from Windham County and other towns in the evacuation zone what their standards should be for cleaning up that monstrosity on the Connecticut River.
Great, thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you all for this incredibly important work. I'm going to start it off with my question, which is a lot of what we know about climate and climate change is in data and numbers. And so I'm wondering, in this divisive time, how do you work with people around their feelings? How do you work with people relationally to get them engaged? Do you want to start, Leslie?
The way that I personally approach that is that we can all get very swept away into paying attention to all of the details. But honestly, especially in Trump's America, when you come right down to it, it comes down to values and morality. What really is right, not just for now, not just for the short profit, but for generations to come. And people will really connect on that level. They want you to get sucked into like watching TV every time and seeing like this talking head said that about that talking head, said that about that person over there, and this person's been fired and blah, blah, blah. We know what the big questions are, and we know in our hearts what the big answers are. And that's how we can get past all that data.
Thank you.
I don't know. I mean, when I came to care about climate change, I came to it because of the data. Like, if you look at the actual numbers and understand what those numbers mean, then it's hard to then sit back and say, okay, I'm going to do nothing. So I think the numbers are really important, but I think that it's about stories and values and relationships. So, you know, when we had Hurricane Irene and my, you know, family, friends lost most of the side of their property that was next to the Rock River, you know, and the impact of that is kind of not just those couple of days around the event itself, it's like, you know, long-standing for years and years. And local businesses that were here, struggled after Irene, then left, you know, those are real people with real lives, and there's real impact from events that we could attribute to climate change or not, you know, that's your call. But, you know, even if you're a climate change denier, like, for example, folks who might, say, live in South Carolina or Florida, they're already experiencing impact from climate change. And it's kind of in a drip, drip, drip way that eats away at, like, local money for, you know, dealing with rising sea levels in a kind of not very, I don't know, cataclysmic way. It's not like some massive wave is crashing down on somebody's house. But when your town has to invest money every year in dealing with stuff like rising sea levels, then it doesn't have money for schools or for, you know, good programs that the towns need. So I think, you know, for me, you've got to have the science, because without it, you're kind of lost. But you've also got to have the stories about why it matters to real people.
I agree about stories. I'm a writer, and so I'm kind of post-election trying to figure out how to use stories and circulate them. Because I think on all of these issues, social justice, economic, racial justice, environmental justice, if we can get people's personal stories out there, that's where we hear each other. And so I don't know, I'm thinking about that. But I also, I think that's why I want to take advantage of the faces of my children, because I don't think there's anything more powerful, more powerful access to the heart than kids and their faces. Everybody loves kids, regardless of where your political alignment is. And so let's have those kids' faces on the front line as a political tool. And hopefully they have fun too.
As I said, our little group is kind of feeling our way, and one of the things that we're including is our feelings in our group, because I think one of the things that is changing, everybody pretty much in this room will agree that our old systems are falling apart, they're not working. And so what kind of world do we want? Well, we want a world where children are considered to be important. The future of children is important. We want a world where the planet is healthy again, where the whole planet works harmoniously. We want a world where the water is alive and nourishes all beings, and so on. And a piece of that a lot of us get numbed by the various and overwhelmed by what's going on, because it's scary. It's really, really scary. And if you let it all in, you can be kind of frozen. At least I've felt that. So I would say, as a result of this conversation, that I would like to look into inviting someone who does the work, something called the Work That Reconnects, which is Joanna Macy. Did any of you hear Joanna Macy when she was here last fall? Yeah, a few.
Fabulous.
Yeah, she does amazing work, which is that we feel our despair, and we really feel it, and we cry or whatever through the stories, and then then that frees us up to actually connect with our passion and act in really in new ways that are inclusive of the whole and that will embrace rather than exclude.
Great, thank you.
How do we work with people? I think when people see us digging in the dirt, it's very seductive to be out there and know that you're going to plant a seed and it's going to grow into something that you can eat. I'm a foodie and I love food. And I think that's what brought me into this project, other than being inspired by a TED Talk. And people just kind of have gravitated, people who are gardeners and want to know more. And as this project is evolving, I've been learning a whole lot. Caitlin mentioned the soils and the water cycles. I've been studying this for the past 6 or 7 months now, and it's amazing what we can do to draw down carbon from the atmosphere into our soils. And if we could encourage more and more people to do this, even on a small basis, you know, there's a new YIMBY movement, yes, in my backyard. And yes, we can all do this in our own backyards. And if Edible Brattleboro can be there to support people to get started with, whether it's education or even mini grants, these are some dreams I have if we ever get some extra funding. But right now, we're working with that and hoping to encourage more people to join us, whether it's in our public areas and public gardens or in their own front yards or backyards, to help contribute to the project.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, the panel has certainly sounded a number of the, I think, critical themes, especially around values. I think that what we are in the midst of is a crisis of values as much as anything else with what's going on. One of the things that, that we at Post Oil have tried to do over the years around engaging people is to listen to them. Very often people come to us and say, what can I do, what can I do? And rather than give them an answer as to that, I try to engage them in a conversation about what they're interested in. Because invariably what they're interested in would be fine for anything that they could do to help Post Oil. What we really need to do is to draw on people's interests and energies to get involved in this project. One of the things also I think that we need to avoid, that I've had to learn the hard way over a long time in activism, is telling people what they need to know, telling people what they need to learn, telling people what they need to do. That is one of the critical areas, and it's so tempting, especially at this time, when time is running out on us in terms of the climate crisis, when we don't have a lot of time to get our act together and to prevent the catastrophe that is awaiting us. The temptation is to engage in, frankly, some of the worst behavior that humans do, of trying to force them into what you think, or I think, is the right way to go. Somehow we've got to learn to be patient, we've got to learn to be tolerant, and we've got to learn to listen to people, because that's where our hope is.
Thank you so much. So we have time for maybe one question. I'm not a very good time management person, because I could talk about this all day. But does anyone have a question? Elise? Yay. Hi, Elise.
I was wondering, in your organizations, how much of a presence of younger people you have, and if not so much, what are you doing to engage them?
Great question. Thank you. You want to take that?
Sure. I would say that in the earlier years, it was a larger or older population that was. As we've gotten into more direct action around climate, we've attracted a lot more younger people who are interested in participating in demonstrations and even risking arrest. Although I must admit our affinity group has, I don't know whether anyone is under 60. So that may not be a good example. So I think, but you know, we get along well with young people. So and in fact, I'd like to throw that out, that anyone that is interested in joining our affinity group or getting involved with training, we have a training coming up on Sunday, April 2nd at the Brattleboro Food Co-op from 9:30 to 6:30. If you're interested, please either see me or sign up at the table. This is a very important training that will prepare people for engaging in the kind of activity that several of us did a few weeks ago at TD Bank. So, and that is something that young people have been very involved with. So I think it's a matter of finding the right thing. Maybe planting a garden, a community garden, or learning the skills is not what young people want to do right now. They want something that seems more relevant to them.
So unfortunately, we're out of time. It's 10:04, we're at the end of our day. We're gonna promise to get people out by 4 today. I'd like to thank this panel so much, and please, as we're walking out today, please connect with these people, and let's preserve our climate. We're going to end with a song, as we always should. Thank you, Ericka, and thank you for everyone who donated to our raffle. And congratulations to the winners. So I just wanted, this is very brief because again, we're right at the end of our day. I always go to Dr. King for inspiration. And in a sermon in 1968, he said, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love." And I gotta give my last little shout out to Michelle Obama, who I miss so much. When they go low, we go high. And Windham County's gonna go high, and Vermont's gonna go high. So, thank you very much.
Hey everybody, it's been a great day. Close out with a couple of songs, one song, two songs, we'll see. Let's start with one we do a lot called Singing for Our Lives. As soon as Dan here is ready. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Peaceful, loving people. We are peaceful, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are peaceful, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are all in this together. We are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are all in this together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Straight and trans together. We are straight and trans together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are straight and trans together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Gentle, loving people. We are gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our
So we are Song and Solidarity. We're a very simple sort of group. We get together to practice leading songs at events like this, or leading songs at protests. And at our meetings, you're welcome to just come along and enjoy singing and decompress after whatever activism you've been doing throughout the week. And that's really pretty much it. We meet Saturday at 3 p.m. or Sunday at 3 p.m. here in the taller building right on the campus. And then we also are meeting every gallery walk at 6 to 6:30. And we will be at Plenty Park, and we'll be joining the Take Back.
That's a secret.
Oh, that's a secret. Really, all we do is sing. We sing. Come sing.
Yeah, you can, our Sunday meetings, just feel free to come and enjoy. That's really the key.
So we were told 15 minutes, but it's almost 4 o'clock. Should we close out one more? You want to sing more? What's your...
Yeah, let's get singing.
One more. All right.
One we all know.
One we're going to teach you. It's called The Tide is Rising. Okay? It's a good one. Sends you out of here with the spirit.
The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. We are where we are called to be. We are where we are called to be.
The tide is rising.
The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. We are where we are called to be. We are where we are called to be.
The storm is raging.
The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. We are where we are called to be. We are where we are called to be.
The tide is rising.
The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. We are where we are called to be. We are where we are called to be.
The world is ready.
The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. We are where we are called to be. We are where we are called to be.
The tide is rising.
The tide is rising, and so are